Thanks for joining me here on Tropical Weather Impact. It is July 1st. Here on your Tuesday, I'm meteorologist Peyton Malone from New Orleans. Looking at our sky here from New Orleans, you can see we do have some haze. It is thanks to Saharan dust. So if you are living anywhere on the northern Gulf Coast from Texas, let's say Houston, Lake Charles, Lafayette, into the New Orleans area, even into Mississippi, you do see a haze in the sky today. That is thanks to Saharan dust that's traveled thousands and thousands of miles across the Atlantic over the past few weeks. So this is going to be with us today and tomorrow, and then eventually through the end of the week here, this is going to get pushed out and it will dissipate as we get a little bit of a northern flow. So that's what's happening with some dust. Elsewhere in the tropics, we do still have three features we're tracking between Flossie, the hurricane in the Pacific. It is moving northeast or northwest rather. It will dissipate here in the coming days as it moves into cooler waters, but it is creating some large swells. That's south of Cabo and near Puerto Vallarta. We have the remnants of Barry still causing a lot of rain there near Tampico, Mexico. That's going to linger there. And then the Hurricane Center still tracking this area or this feature maybe for potential development by the end of this week. So we haven't seen a whole lot of change in our thinking with this feature that could is here, potentially develop by the end of this week into the weekend. Hurricane Center, the only change, they bumped up the chance to 30%. That's up from 20%, which was yesterday. So overall, the chances are still not off the chart here. There's still a lot of uncertainty on how this will evolve. We do think this is still going to be a rainmaker, mainly for areas along the Florida Peninsula, maybe into coastal areas of the Carolinas and Georgia and the coastal areas along the Florida Panhandle. But the further west you get, you're going to start to see less and less rainfall by the end of the week. Now, you notice this morning, we do have a pretty big burst of showers and storms in the Northeast Gulf. This is going to be common the next few days. We are expecting more showers and storms to fire up each morning and through the afternoon and the water over the water here. We've also got a fairly large area of showers and storms that have developed over the Bahamas. Now, this is tied to an upper level low that is spinning. When we look at our water vapor imagery, this is looking in the mid-levels of the atmosphere between 15 to 20,000 feet up in the air. And you can see you do have some spin here. Now, all this black you see, that is dry air on the back side of this upper level low. You get a little bit more moisture in the showers and storms here. And then on the front of that low, you've got all these showers and storms. So this upper level low is actually backing this way, which means the scattered showers and storms are going to remain in this area. So that's the first feature we're watching. The second feature is a very weak front, cool front technically, moving through the deep south, and it's going to park down here by this weekend and it'll fizzle out. And so that, coupled with this upper level low, that will be a convergence zone of showers and storms, and that will happen in this corridor right here within our yellow area that is being watched by the Hurricane Center. So anywhere in that yellow area is where we could see some low pressure trying to form thanks to the old front and this upper level low that's going to spin down here for the rest of the week. So PrecisionCast showing nothing's probably going to happen quickly. We're not expecting anything to blow up substantially, at least today or tomorrow. Now, sometimes if low pressure does start to form with any of these complexes of storms, if it's in the right spot and doesn't have a lot of dry air and wind shear is low, these waters are super warm, and so this thing could ramp up. But right now, we don't have a ton of model signal for that. But as we always say, whenever you have something like this near you at home, you got to watch it closely, especially if you're around Florida. So this is PrecisionCast is showing up and down with the showers and storms for Florida for the next couple of days. There's a better shot of seeing some low pressure develop by this weekend and early next week. As you can see, this corridor of tropical moisture extending through what looks like a little kidney bean there. That's where we have our best shot of seeing some low pressure form. And on these types of setups, you can sometimes get a couple of areas of low pressure forming. You could get one here, here, here. It all is in conjunction with just those showers and thunderstorms. Now in New Orleans, Mississippi, even further west, yes, we got a little tropical moisture, but watch this dry air from the north. It actually gets pushed into the area later on this week. For Friday, the 4th of July, you get a lot of dry air across the Gulf Coast. Meanwhile, Florida, the peninsula at least, is still having the best shot of some heavy tropical rains. And then the further north you get of that, you just got a lot of dry air. So that's why we're probably not going to even see much rain across Louisiana or Mississippi for the 4th of July. Even Saturday looks like it's dry. Again, look where the moisture is on Saturday into Sunday, still concentrated in Florida or around Florida. It's not until next Sunday or Monday we start to see a lot of this get kind of strung out and pulled apart. This is where where we could start to see a little bit more moisture move towards us. That would happen early next week. If you live in the Carolinas, you may actually have some moisture coming in too as the pattern begins to break down. So here's what we're thinking with our rainfall totals. This really hasn't changed either. You can see a larger corridor of heavy tropical rains over the Gulf here. That's where we're most likely to see the highest rain totals. Now, if you live in the peninsula of Florida, especially from Gainesville, Orlando, Tampa, you do have a chance for some heavier downpours. But again, remember, this is not going to be a constant rain. There's going to be breaks in the rain. It'll be up and down and just occasionally get those heavy downpours. So we're just going to have to watch it. That's what you have to do with these types of setups. You're not watching one single tropical wave that could form. Oftentimes, that's fairly easy to track, where in these cases, you've just got a long stretch of unsettled weather. It's right along that convergence zone of varying winds from the old cold front, and so you can get little areas of spin all along this, and that's why you have this long drawn out. And when I show you our GFS and Euromodel spin, you can see there you just get these little blobs of spin everywhere. European does it that day, and then you get this long stretch, you get a little bit more here and there, and so very messy setup as we go throughout the weekend. Now, if you're in New Orleans watching this thinking, are we going to get anything from this? If we were, it would probably be towards the end of the weekend or early next week when our steering currents begin to change. Water temperatures plenty warm to support tropical development, but remember, you got to have more than just warm water temperatures. We do have some dry air around. There's going to be a little wind shear, and you've got this big old peninsula of Florida sticking out here. So if things stay mostly over Florida, then you have land interaction. All these are variables. So the steering currents today, you've got this big ridge of high pressure out west. Let me back this up to show you where we stand right now. In between these two ridges is where you have your weakness. That's where showers and storms form. The ridge right now is strongest out towards the Bermuda High, and then you've got this little extension over through the plains and down towards the Gulf Coast. So that's why things are just not moving much at the moment. Now, as we go through the end of this week and into the Saturday time frame, notice what happens. You start to see a much larger ridge develop over the central United States. This is when we could start to see any moisture down here actually start to get tugged back our direction thanks to that ridge strengthening. So this would happen probably if we do see moisture, it would get here on Sunday or Monday if there's moisture down here. So that's why I have our rain chances slightly higher Sunday and Monday here in New Orleans. And then as we head into next week, you still just get this large extension of a ridge across the central U.S., back through the Atlantic Basin, and there's your strong Bermuda High. Really gets going next week out in the deep tropics. So we have officially entered July. Things naturally, they perk up a little bit in July, but June and July are our quietest months in the tropics. Even in some busy seasons like '04, we didn't have a storm form until the end of the month here. So these are our tropical formation zones. When you look at many of the past years, a lot of your June and July systems are homegrown systems, which means they form close to home, oftentimes from upper level lows or old cold fronts. So this is what June looks like. Fast forward to July. You often get a little bit more activity, but nothing dramatic. There's a couple of areas similar to what we're watching right now in these corridors where old fronts exist. And then you start to see things perk up a little bit out in the deep tropics, but that really gets going as you head into August. And then as we know, September is our busiest month with a lot of formation in these tropical waves that move off the continent of Africa. Occasionally you do get a homegrown system closer to home here, and then October you start to see the attention turn to the Caribbean and the southern Gulf, and then it becomes less and less active as we head towards the end of hurricane season. Again, hurricane season's just getting started. We are officially at July 1st, and a reminder, July often has many lulls in it, and sometimes you're going through July, you're thinking, this has been so quiet, there hasn't been anything happen. We've seen many seasons where that has been the case, and then things, it's like rocket fuel, takes off into August and September. And a reminder, the second week of September is the peak of hurricane season. It often falls around the September 10th timeframe. October can even be busy, and some of our previous seasons, some Octobers have been busier than early August. So it's just a reminder, these things sometimes take a while to wrap up and wind down in a more active season. And then things usually by November, we're usually breathing a sigh of relief here on the at least the northern Gulf Coast as attention starts to turn towards the Atlantic Basin and more towards Florida. So here we are. We've checked off 2 names so far. That's on par with, what we usually see this time of year. These have been very weak short-lived systems. We call them shorties. They have not added up to much of anything. Eventually, we will probably get Chantal. I'm not sure it's going to be this one we're watching off the over Florida here later this week, but it is something to monitor. And then you can see going on with our list here with Dexter and Aaron. So as it stands right now, the tropics still fairly quiet when you look at the grand scheme of things. We're just kind of in this wait and watch period. If you're along the northern Gulf here in Louisiana, from Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, you're going to notice some haze in the sky with that Saharan dust. That'll be with us a couple of more days, and then eventually a north wind starts to push all this out, and we start to see well, drier and much hotter weather. I'm forecasting the mid-90s along the northern Gulf Coast here as we go through our 4th of July weekend. If you got travel plans to Florida, you're going to be watching for extra tropical moisture with rain on and off. I don't think it's a continuous rain all weekend long, but certainly could have some tropical downpours at times. That's going to do it for your July 1st tropical weather impact. We will see you right back here tomorrow with the latest.